My name is Lottie, and I am 53 years old. I never imagined I would be standing in a cemetery on a cold October morning burying my only son. The air smelled of damp earth and dying leaves. People I barely recognized offered their condolences, their words hollow and distant, but nothing prepared me for what happened next. A woman in expensive black clothing walked into the church during the service, sat in the front row like she belonged there, and after the funeral ended, she looked me in the eye and said she wanted the $25 million my son left me. Before I tell you what happened next, I would love to know where you are watching from. Please hit that like button and subscribe, because this story about greed, betrayal, and a grandmother's fight for justice is something you will not believe until the very end. Let me take you back to the beginning so you understand how we got here. My son Marcus was born in 1985. From the moment I held him in my arms, I knew he was special. He had these bright blue eyes that seemed to see right through you even as a baby. We lived in a quiet suburb outside Columbus, Ohio. It was just the two of us after his father passed away when Marcus was only 7 years old. I worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat. I waited tables during the day and cleaned offices at night. But I never complained. Marcus was my world. He was a gentle child, the kind of boy who cried when he saw an injured bird and spent his allowance buying its seed. He studied hard, stayed out of trouble, and made me proud every single day. When he got accepted to Stanford University with a full scholarship, I cried for an hour straight. My little boy was going to California to study computer science. I had never been so proud in my entire life. After graduation, Marcus stayed in Silicon Valley. He joined a small tech startup working 18-hour days, sleeping on the office couch sometimes. He called me every Sunday without fail. He told me about his work, about the projects he was building, about how he believed technology could change the world. I did not understand half of what he said, but I loved hearing the excitement in his voice. Then in 2005, everything changed. Marcus met Diane. He called me one evening, his voice bright with happiness. He had met someone at a tech conference in San Francisco. Her name was Diane. She was beautiful, he said. Smart. Funny. She worked in marketing for another startup. He was falling in love. I was happy for him. Of course I was. My son deserved love. But when I met Diane for the first time, something felt off. It was Thanksgiving. Marcus brought her home to Ohio. She walked into my modest house with this look on her face like she was touring a museum of poverty. She wore designer clothes and expensive jewelry. Her nails were perfect. Her hair was perfect. Everything about her screamed money. During dinner, she barely touched the food I had spent all day preparing. She kept checking her phone. When Marcus talked about his work, she smiled politely, but her eyes glazed over. The only time she seemed truly interested was when Marcus mentioned his stock options in the company. Then her eyes lit up. I told myself I was being paranoid. Maybe she was just nervous meeting me. Maybe I was being an overprotective mother. But deep down, I knew. Diane was not in love with Marcus. She was in love with his potential. They got married in 2006. The wedding was in San Francisco at some fancy hotel overlooking the bay. It cost more money than I made in 2 years. Diane insisted on everything being perfect. The flowers, the cake, the band, the venue. Marcus paid for it all, draining his savings. He did not seem to mind. He was so in love, so eager to make her happy. I sat in the front row during the ceremony watching my son promise to love and cherish this woman, and I prayed I was wrong about her. I prayed she would make him happy. I prayed she would be the partner he deserved. For the first 2 years, Marcus seemed content. He and Diane lived in a small apartment in Palo Alto. He worked long hours, and she worked too, though she complained constantly about her job. She wanted a bigger apartment, a nicer car, designer furniture. Marcus tried his best to provide, but they were not rich. Not yet. Then, in 2008, Emma was born. The first time I held my granddaughter, I felt my heart expand in ways I did not know were possible. She was tiny, with pale blonde hair and blue eyes exactly like her father's. Marcus called me crying the day she was born. He was so happy, so overwhelmed with love. He promised me he would be the best father in the world. And he was. I flew to California as often as I could to help with Emma. Marcus was exhausted working during the day and waking up for night feedings. Diane, on the other hand, seemed detached. She held Emma like the baby was a fragile piece of glass that might break. She hired a nanny within weeks. She said she needed to get back to work, back to her life. She said motherhood was harder than she expected. I saw the cracks forming in their marriage. Diane grew more distant. She went out with friends more often, leaving Marcus alone with Emma. She complained about the sleepless nights, the crying, the diapers, the endless demands of a baby. She wanted her old life back, the life before Emma, before responsibilities. Marcus tried to hold everything together. He loved his daughter with a fierce, protective love. He changed diapers, sang lullabies, walked the floors at 3 in the morning when Emma would not sleep. He was exhausted, but he never complained. He just kept going, kept trying to be everything for everyone. Then one morning in March 2009, everything shattered. I got a phone call from Marcus. His voice was shaking. He could barely get the words out. Diane was gone. She had left a note on the kitchen counter. It said, "I cannot do this anymore. I need more than this life." That was it. No explanation, no apology, no goodbye to her 14-month-old daughter. Marcus was devastated. He was 24 years old, suddenly a single father working a demanding job, trying to understand how his wife could just walk away. He called Diane's phone over and over. It went straight to voicemail. He called her parents. They had not heard from her. He called her friends. No one knew where she was. She had simply vanished. I flew to California the next day. I found Marcus sitting on the floor of Emma's nursery, holding her in his arms, tears streaming down his face. Emma was fussing, hungry, and confused. Marcus looked at me and said, "Mom, what do I do? How do I do this alone?" I moved in with him that week. I left my job, packed up my life in Ohio, and moved to California to help my son raise his daughter. For the next 16 years, it was the three of us, Marcus, Emma, and me. We became a family in the truest sense of the word. Diane never called, never wrote, never sent a birthday card or a Christmas present. She disappeared completely, as if Emma had never existed. Marcus filed for divorce. Diane did not contest it. She did not even show up to the hearing. The judge granted the divorce in absentia. The years that followed were hard, but they were also beautiful. Marcus threw himself into being a father. He learned to braid Emma's hair, though his first attempts were disasters that made us all laugh. He attended every parent-teacher conference, every dance recital, every soccer game. He was there for Emma's first day of kindergarten, holding her hand and crying more than she did. He was there for her first lost tooth, her first sleepover, her first crush. Emma grew up to be a remarkable young woman. She was smart like her father, with his same gentle nature and quick smile. She never asked about Diane. She understood even as a little girl that her mother had chosen to leave. She had Marcus, and she had me, and that was enough. On Sundays, we had family dinners. Marcus cooked, usually burning something, and we would laugh and talk about our week. Emma told us about school, about her friends, about her dreams. She wanted to be an engineer just like her dad. Marcus's eyes would shine with pride whenever she said that. He never dated anyone else. I asked him about it once, whether he wanted to try again to find someone new. He shook his head. He said he had everything he needed. He had Emma. He had me. He did not need anything else. Meanwhile, Marcus's career took off. The startup he had been working for since college began to grow rapidly. They were developing artificial intelligence software, something about machine learning and neural networks. I did not understand the technical details, but I understood that it was important. Revolutionary, Marcus said. By 2012, the company was gaining serious attention. Investors poured money in. The team grew from 20 people to 200. Marcus became one of the lead engineers working on the core technology. He still worked long hours, but he was happy. He loved what he did. Then, in 2018, everything changed. A major tech corporation offered to buy the company. The deal was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Marcus, as one of the early employees with significant stock options, stood to make a fortune. I remember the day he got the news. He came home, sat down at the kitchen table, and just stared at his hands. I asked him what was wrong. He looked up at me and said, "Mom, I am going to have $25 million. I do not know what to do with that." The sale went through that summer. Marcus became a millionaire overnight, but you would never know it by looking at him. He did not buy a mansion or a sports car. He did not change his lifestyle at all. He bought a nicer house for the three of us. Nothing extravagant, just a comfortable place in a good neighborhood with a big backyard for Emma. He set up a college fund for Emma that would cover not just her undergraduate degree, but graduate school too, if she wanted it. He invested the rest carefully. He told me he wanted to make sure Emma would always be taken care of. He said he knew what it was like to grow up without much, And he wanted his daughter to have opportunities, but he also wanted to teach her the value of hard work. He did not want the money to spoil her. One evening, about a year after the sale, Marcus and I were sitting on the back porch. Emma was inside doing homework. Marcus turned to me and said, "Mom, I need to update my will. I want to make sure everything is in order." I told him he was too young to be thinking about such things. He was only 33 years old. He had his whole life ahead of him. But he insisted. He said, "If anything ever happens to me, everything goes to you. You will take care of Emma. I trust you completely." I laughed and told him nothing was going to happen to him. He had decades ahead of him. He would see Emma graduate college, get married, have children of her own. He would be around for all of it. He smiled, but there was something serious in his eyes. He said, "I just want to make sure, just in case." We signed the papers a week later. Everything Marcus owned would go to me. I would manage it and use it to take care of Emma until she turned 25, at which point she would inherit directly. It seemed like a sensible plan, a precaution that would never actually be needed. How wrong I was. Last September, on a Tuesday afternoon, I got a phone call that destroyed my world. Marcus had been driving home from a business trip to Los Angeles. He was on Interstate 5 about an hour from home. A semi-truck driver fell asleep at the wheel, crossed the median, and hit Marcus's car head-on. The hospital called me first. They told me to come immediately. I grabbed Emma from school, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might explode. We drove to the hospital in silence. Emma kept asking if Dad was okay. I could not answer. I could not speak past the lump in my throat. When we got to the emergency room, a doctor took us into a private room. That was when I knew. They only take you to private rooms when the news is bad. Marcus had massive internal injuries. They had done everything they could, but the damage was too severe. He was alive, but barely. They did not think he would make it through the night. They let us see him. He was hooked up to machines, tubes everywhere, his face swollen and bruised. But he was conscious. He knew we were there. Emma ran to his side, sobbing. She held his hand and begged him to stay. Marcus looked at her with so much love in his eyes. He whispered, "I love you, baby girl. You are going to be okay. Grandma will take care of you." Then he looked at me. He tried to speak, but he was too weak. I leaned close. He whispered, "Take care of her, Mom. Keep her safe. I love you." Those were his last words. He slipped into unconsciousness an hour later. By dawn, he was gone. My son, my beautiful, kind, brilliant son, gone at 39 years old. The days after his death were a blur. I had to plan a funeral while trying to hold Emma together. She barely spoke. She barely ate. She just sat in her room staring at nothing, tears streaming down her face. I wanted to fall apart too, but I could not. Emma needed me. I had to be strong for her. Marcus's lawyer called me the day before the funeral. He read me the will. Everything was exactly as Marcus had said. All his assets, including the $25 million in various accounts and investments, now belonged to me. I was to use it to care for Emma and secure her future. I did not care about the money. All I wanted was my son back. The funeral was held at our local church. Hundreds of people came. Marcus's colleagues from work, friends from over the years, neighbors, people whose lives he had touched. Everyone spoke about his kindness, his brilliance, his dedication to his daughter. It should have been comforting, but it just made the loss hurt more. Emma and I stood at the front of the church greeting people as they arrived. We wore black dresses. Emma leaned against me, her body shaking with silent sobs. I held her close, trying to be her strength when I had none of my own. The service was beautiful. The minister talked about Marcus's life, his accomplishments, his love for his daughter. People shared memories. Emma wanted to speak, but she could not get through it. She broke down after 2 sentences, and I had to help her back to her seat. I thought that was the worst moment of my life. I was wrong. Halfway through the service, the church doors opened. I heard them creak, the sound echoing through the quiet sanctuary. Everyone turned to look. A woman walked in her heels, clicking on the hardwood floor. She was wearing all black, a designer dress, expensive shoes, oversized sunglasses. Her hair was platinum blonde, styled perfectly. She moved with confidence, like she had every right to be there. I recognized her immediately, even though I had not seen her in 16 years. Diane. My heart stopped. The air left my lungs. For a moment, I thought I was hallucinating. This could not be real. She could not be here, but she was. Diane walked down the center aisle, her eyes hidden behind those dark glasses. She slid into the front row just 2 seats away from Emma and me. She sat down, crossed her legs, and folded her hands in her lap. Emma stiffened beside me. She whispered, "Grandma, who is that?" I could not answer. I could not move. I could not breathe. The service continued, but I did not hear another word. All I could think about was the woman sitting a few feet away from me, the woman who had abandoned her husband and baby daughter 16 years ago, the woman who had never called, never written, never cared. What was she doing here? Why now? After the service ended, people filed out slowly. I stood with Emma, accepting condolences, trying to maintain some semblance of composure. Diane stayed in her seat waiting. When the church was nearly empty, she stood up and walked toward us. She removed her sunglasses. Her eyes were cold and calculating. There was no sadness in them, no grief, just something hard and sharp. She stopped right in front of me. "Lottie," she said. Her voice was exactly as I remembered. Smooth, confident. "We need to talk." I felt Emma tense beside me. I put my hand on her shoulder, a silent message to stay calm. "You have no right to be here," I said. My voice was low, steady, though my insides were churning. Diane smiled. It was not a kind smile. "I have every right. Marcus was my husband. Ex-husband," I corrected. "You left him 16 years ago." Diane's smile did not waver. "Details. The point is, I heard about the money. $25 million. That is quite an inheritance." My blood ran cold. She did not come here to mourn Marcus. She came here for the money. I kept my voice calm. "That money has nothing to do with you." Diane tilted her head. "I think it does. I am his widow. I deserve my share. You abandoned him." I said, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. "You abandoned your daughter. You have no claim to anything." Diane glanced at Emma for the first time. Emma stared back at her eyes wide with shock and confusion. Diane looked back at me. "The law does not see it that way?" "I have spoken to a lawyer. There are certain loopholes in the divorce proceedings. We were married. That gives me rights." I could not believe what I was hearing. "You did not even come to the divorce hearing. You were gone. You disappeared." Diane shrugged. "I was young. I made mistakes. But that does not erase my legal standing." People around us were starting to stare. Mourners who had lingered were watching our confrontation with wide eyes. I lowered my voice. "If you think I am going to give you a single penny of Marcus's money, you are insane." Diane's expression hardened. "Think about it, Lottie. Talk to your lawyer. You will see I am right. I will be in touch." She turned and walked away, her heels clicking across the floor. She did not look back. Emma grabbed my arm. "Grandma, who was that woman?" I looked down at my granddaughter. Her face was pale, her eyes filled with tears. I had to tell her the truth. "That was your mother," I said quietly. Emma's eyes went wide. She shook her head. "No, no, that cannot be her. She left us. She does not get to come back. I know, honey. I know." Emma started to cry. "Why is she here? Why now?" I pulled her into my arms, holding her tight. "I do not know, but I promise you, I will not let her take anything from us." That night after we got home, I could not sleep. Emma had cried herself to exhaustion and finally fallen asleep around midnight. I sat in the living room staring at the wall, trying to process what had happened. Diane was back. After 16 years of silence, she had returned, not because she cared about Marcus, not because she wanted to know her daughter. She came back because she heard about the money. I thought about all the years Marcus had struggled, the nights he stayed up with a sick baby while his wife was out with friends, the times he worked double shifts to pay the bills because Diane spent money they did not have, the day she left leaving a note on the counter like she was canceling a subscription service. I thought about Emma, the little girl who grew up without a mother, who asked when she was 5 years old why all her friends had mommies, and she did not, the way Marcus had held her and told her that some families were different, but that did not make them less full of love. I thought about Marcus's face in the hospital telling me to take care of Emma, trusting me with everything he had worked for. Diane had no right to any of it. I picked up my phone and called Gerald Morrison, my lawyer and old friend. It was late, but he answered on the third ring. "Lottie, what is wrong?" I told him everything. about Diane showing up at the funeral, about her claim to the money, about her threat to involve lawyers. Gerald was quiet for a long moment after I finished. Then he said, "She is lying about the loopholes. The divorce was finalized properly. I have the paperwork. She has no legal claim to Marcus's estate. But she said I started. She is bluffing." Gerald interrupted. "She is hoping to scare you into giving her a settlement. Do not engage with her. If she contacts you again, refer her to me. I will handle it." I felt a small measure of relief. "Okay, thank you." Gerald paused. "Lottie, be careful. People do desperate things when money is involved. If she really believes she has a case, she might cause trouble." "I will be ready," I said. We hung up. I sat in the dark for another hour thinking. If Diane wanted a fight, she would get one. I would not let her take anything from Emma. Marcus had trusted me to protect his daughter. I would not let him down. The next morning, Emma came downstairs. Her eyes were red and puffy from crying. She sat at the kitchen table and did not touch the breakfast I had made. "I do not want to go to school," she said quietly. "I know, honey. You do not have to. Stay home today." She looked up at me. "Grandma, what if that woman comes back? If she does, I will deal with it," I said firmly. "You do not have to worry about her." Emma bit her lip. "Why did she leave us?" Was it because of me? My heart broke. I knelt down beside her chair and took her hands. "No, absolutely not. It had nothing to do with you. You were a perfect baby. Your father loved you more than anything in the world. Your mother left because of her own issues, not because of you." Emma's eyes filled with tears again. "I miss Dad so much. I know. I miss him too." We sat together for a long time, holding each other, crying together. It was all we could do. Around 10 o'clock in the morning, the doorbell rang. Emma and I looked at each other. My stomach dropped. I had a bad feeling about this. "Stay here," I told Emma. I walked to the front door and looked through the peephole. My heart sank. Diane was standing on my porch. Next to her was a man in an expensive suit carrying a briefcase. I took a deep breath and opened the door. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me, keeping Emma inside. "Diane?" I said coldly. "What are you doing here?" Diane gestured to the man beside her. "This is my attorney, Mr. Harrison." Mr. Harrison stepped forward. He was tall, with graying hair and a stern expression. "Mrs. Lottie, we are here to discuss the estate of Marcus. I have nothing to discuss with you. Please leave my property." Mr. Harrison did not flinch. "We can do this the easy way or the hard way, Mrs. Lottie. My client has a legitimate claim to a portion of Marcus's estate." Diane crossed her arms. I was his wife. The law recognizes spousal rights even in cases of separation. "You were divorced," I said, my voice rising. "You left him. You abandoned your child. You have no right to anything." Mr. Harrison pulled a folder from his briefcase. He held up several documents. "These papers indicate that while a divorce was filed, there were certain procedural issues in multiple jurisdictions that call the finality of that divorce into question. My client has grounds to contest the will." I felt a surge of panic, but fought to keep my face neutral. "That is ridiculous." Diane stepped forward, her voice sharp. "I am not asking for everything, Lottie. I am being reasonable. Give me $10 million and I will walk away. You keep the rest. Emma keeps the rest. Everyone wins." $10 million, I repeated, incredulous. "You think you deserve $10 million for abandoning your family? I think I deserve what is legally mine," Diane shot back. "And if you refuse, we will take this to court. And trust me, courts tend to favor the biological parent. I could end up with custody of Emma and control over all the money." My blood ran ice cold. She was threatening to take Emma. "You would not dare," I whispered. "Try me," Diane said. "I have a lawyer. I have a case. You have 24 hours to agree to my terms or we file a lawsuit. Your choice." I stared at her. This woman who had walked away from her daughter without a second thought was now threatening to take her away just to get money. It was monstrous. Before I could respond, I heard the door open behind me. Emma stepped out onto the porch. I turned to her. "Emma, go back inside." But Emma did not move. She stared at Diane with an expression I had never seen on her face before. It was pure cold fury. "You," Emma said, her voice shaking, "you are not my mother." Diane looked at Emma properly for the first time. There was a flicker of surprise in her eyes. Emma, you have grown up? Do not say my name, Emma said. You do not know me. You do not have the right to know me. Diane tried to soften her expression. Emma, honey, I know I made mistakes, but I am here now. We can— Mistakes, Emma interrupted. You call abandoning me when I was a baby a mistake? Emma took a step forward. Her hands were clenched into fists at her sides. You left us. You left my dad. Do you know what he went through? Do you know how hard he worked to take care of me? He was there for everything. Every birthday, every Christmas, every time I was sick, every time I needed him. Where were you? Diane opened her mouth, but no words came out. Emma's voice grew stronger. My dad loved me. He gave up everything for me. He worked himself to exhaustion to give me a good life. And when he finally had success, when he finally had money, he did not spend it on himself. He saved it for me, for my future. Emma's eyes blazed. And now you show up after 16 years and you think you can just take it. You think you deserve a penny of what he worked for. Mr. Harrison tried to interrupt. Miss Emma, I understand you are emotional, but this is a legal matter. Emma turned on him. Legal, you want to talk about legal. How about the legal definition of abandonment? How about the fact that she never paid a dime of child support, never called, never wrote? She does not even know my middle name. Diane flinched. Emma stepped closer to her. You gave birth to me. That is all. You are not my mother. Mothers do not leave their children. Mothers do not disappear. Mothers do not come back 16 years later asking for money. Tears were streaming down Emma's face now, but her voice did not waver. My grandmother is more of a mother to me than you will ever be. She was there. She raised me with my dad. She loves me. You are just a stranger who happens to share my DNA. Diane's facade cracked. Her face paled. For the first time, she looked uncertain. Emma pulled something from her pocket. It was a folded piece of paper. She handed it to Mr. Harrison. That is a statement I wrote, Emma said. I am 16 years old. In this state, the court is required to consider my wishes. I am telling you right now, under oath if necessary, that I do not want anything to do with her. She has no rights to me. She has no rights to my father's money. And if you try to take this to court, I will testify. I will tell the judge exactly what she did, how she left, how she never came back. Mr. Harrison unfolded the paper and began reading. His expression shifted. Emma looked at Diane one last time. My dad left that money to Grandma because he trusted her. He knew she would take care of me. He knew she would use it the right way. You do not get to swoop in and take it. Diane's eyes were wide. She looked from Emma to me, then back to Emma. I did not know, she whispered. I did not know you would what Emma said bitterly, would grow up, would remember, would care. There was a long, tense silence. Then I heard footsteps behind me. I turned. Gerald Morrison was walking up the driveway carrying his own briefcase. Gerald, I breathed. What are you doing here? Emma called me, he said, nodding at my granddaughter. She told me what was happening. Gerald walked past me and stood next to Emma. He looked at Mr. Harrison. Carl, he said, I did not expect to see you on a case like this. Mr. Harrison looked uncomfortable. Gerald, I am just representing my client. Gerald nodded. Well, let me represent mine. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. Inside, Marcus had prepared for this moment. Years ago, after the divorce was finalized, he had written a letter. He had it notarized and filed with his will. He knew there was a chance Diane might come back if he ever had money. He wanted to protect Emma and me. Gerald pulled out the letter and began reading aloud. To whom it may concern. If you are reading this, it means Diane has returned to contest my estate. I want to make one thing absolutely clear. Diane abandoned me and our daughter Emma when Emma was 14 months old. She left without warning, without explanation, without care. She did not pay child support. She did not visit. She did not call on birthdays or holidays. She made no effort whatsoever to be part of Emma's life for 16 years. Gerald's voice was steady and firm. Whatever money I have earned is the result of 16 years of hard work, sacrifice, and dedication to my daughter. Diane has no moral claim to it. She has no legal claim to it. Every penny is meant for Emma and for my mother Lottie, who has been the true mother figure Emma deserved. If Diane contests this will, I ask the court to consider the overwhelming evidence of abandonment and to protect my daughter from any further harm caused by a woman who chose money over family." Gerald lowered the letter. He looked at Mr. Harrison. "We also have 16 years of documented evidence. Bank records showing 0 child support payments. Phone records showing 0 contact. Testimony from dozens of people who witnessed the abandonment." He pulled out more papers. Furthermore, the divorce was finalized properly. Every T was crossed, every I was dotted. Any claim to the contrary is frivolous and will be immediately dismissed by any competent judge. Mr. Harrison's confident expression had faded. He looked at the papers in Gerald's hands, then at the letter Emma had given him. Gerald was not finished. "And if you proceed with this lawsuit, we will countersue for emotional distress caused to a minor child. We will seek damages. We will seek a restraining order. And we will make sure that every detail of Diane's abandonment becomes a matter of public record." He looked directly at Diane. "Is that really what you want? Your name dragged through the courts? Every cruel detail of how you abandoned your infant daughter exposed for the world to see?" Diane's face had gone completely white. Emma spoke up again, her voice calmer now, but no less fierce. "And I will testify. I will stand in front of a judge and tell them everything. How you left. How my dad cried. How my grandmother moved across the country to help us. How we built a life without you. The court will see you for exactly what you are, someone who only cares about money." Mr. Harrison closed his briefcase. He looked at Diane. "Mrs. Diane, I think we should reconsider our position here." Diane stared at him. "But the money, it is $25 million. "We have no case," Mr. Harrison said bluntly. "The evidence against you is overwhelming. The letter, the testimony, the documentation we would lose, and you would be liable for their legal fees as well." Diane looked at me, then at Emma, then at Gerald. Her face was a mixture of emotions, shock, anger, perhaps even a flicker of shame. She started, but her voice failed. Emma crossed her arms. "You have nothing to say. You should have thought about this 16 years ago." I took a step forward. I kept my voice low and controlled. "Diane, you made your choice when you walked out that door. You chose to leave your family. You chose to disappear. Now you have to live with that choice. We are not giving you a single penny. We are not negotiating. If you ever come near my granddaughter again, we will pursue every legal avenue available to keep you away." Diane looked like she wanted to argue, but Mr. Harrison put a hand on her arm. "We need to go." Diane did not move for a long moment. She looked at Emma one last time. There was something in her eyes. Regret, maybe, or just the realization that she had lost. "I did not want this," Diane whispered. "I never wanted." But she did not finish. She turned and walked down the porch steps. Mr. Harrison followed her. We watched them get into a sleek black car and drive away. The moment they were gone, Emma collapsed into my arms sobbing. Not from sadness, but from relief. From the release of all the tension she had been holding. "You were so brave," I whispered into her hair. "Your father would be so proud of you." "Is it really over?" Emma asked. Gerald nodded. "It is over. They will not come back. They know they cannot win." Emma pulled back and looked at me. "Grandma, I was so scared." "I know, honey. So was I." We stood on the porch for a while, the three of us just breathing. The nightmare was over. The weeks that followed were a slow process of healing. Emma went back to school, though she struggled to focus. I spent my days trying to manage the practical aspects of Marcus's estate while also supporting my granddaughter through her grief. We cried together often, sometimes for Marcus, sometimes from the sheer exhaustion of everything we had been through. But gradually things got easier. Emma started talking about her father more, sharing memories. We looked through old photo albums, laughing at pictures of Marcus with terrible haircuts or covered in frosting from one of his failed birthday cake attempts. We visited his grave every Sunday, bringing fresh flowers, telling him about our week. I made sure Emma knew that the money was hers, that her father had worked for it, saved it, invested it all, so she would have opportunities. I set up a trust exactly as Marcus had wanted. Emma would have access to funds for college, for living expenses, but the bulk would remain protected until she turned 25. By then, she would be mature enough to handle it responsibly. Emma threw herself into her studies. She said she wanted to make her father proud. She wanted to study computer science just like he did. She wanted to build things that would make the world better. I watched her grow stronger every day. She was resilient just like Marcus had been. She had his kindness, his determination, his quiet strength. One evening, about 2 months after Diane had left, Emma and I were sitting on the back porch. It was a cool evening in November. The sky was turning pink and orange as the sun set behind the trees. Emma was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Grandma, do you ever think about her?" About Diane, I considered the question carefully. Sometimes I admitted, but not the way you might think. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I do not think about her with anger anymore. At first I was furious. The audacity of her showing up at your father's funeral, demanding money, threatening us. I wanted to scream at her, to make her understand how much pain she caused." Emma nodded slowly, but now I continued. "I just feel sad for her. She made choices that cost her everything. She had a beautiful baby daughter, and she walked away. She had a husband who loved her, and she left him. She spent 16 years of her life doing who knows what, probably chasing something she thought would make her happy. And in the end, she came back for money, not for family. That is a tragedy." Emma was quiet. I looked at her. "Honey, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. Your father taught me that. He never spoke badly about Diane, even after everything. He said she was the one who had to live with her choices, and that was punishment enough." "Do you think she regrets it?" Emma asked softly. "Maybe," I said. "When she saw you standing on that porch when you spoke to her with such strength and clarity, I think maybe she realized what she had lost. But it is too late for her to fix it. You do not owe her forgiveness. You do not owe her anything." "I do not forgive her," Emma said firmly. "But I do not want to spend my life hating her either. Is that wrong?" "No," I said, pulling her close. "That is exactly right. Hatred weighs you down. You can acknowledge what she did was wrong. You can protect yourself from her, and you can still let go of the anger. That is what makes you strong." Emma leaned her head on my shoulder. "I miss Dad so much, Grandma." "I do too, sweetheart. Every single day." We sat in silence, watching the sun disappear below the horizon. The sky turned from orange to deep purple to black. Stars began to appear one by one. "You know what I have learned," I said quietly. "Family is not always about blood. It is about who shows up, who stays, who loves you even when it is hard. Your father showed up for you every single day of your life. I showed up. We were your family. We still are." Emma nodded. "I know, and I'm so grateful for that. Your father left us more than money, Emma. He left us love. He left us memories. He left us the example of how to live a good life, how to work hard, how to be kind, how to never give up. That is the real inheritance." Emma was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "What are we going to do with all that money, Grandma?" I smiled. "We are going to use it the way your father wanted. We are going to make sure you get the best education. We are going to help people who need it. We are going to donate to causes your father cared about. And we are going to live our lives in a way that would make him proud." "I think he would like that," Emma said softly. "I know he would." We sat together under the stars, two women who had lost the man they both loved, but who still had each other. The money in the bank did not heal the wound of losing Marcus. It never could. But it gave us security. It gave Emma opportunities. And most importantly, it gave us the freedom to grieve without worrying about survival. A few weeks later, Gerald called with news. Diane had left the state. He had heard through legal channels that she had moved back to Nevada. She had not contacted us again. She had signed papers confirming she would not pursue any claim to Marcus's estate. It was truly over. Emma and I planted a tree in the backyard in Marcus's memory, a Japanese maple with leaves that turned brilliant red in the fall. We stood together as we patted the soil around its roots. "This will grow strong," I told Emma. "Just like you. Just like your father's legacy." Emma wiped tears from her eyes. She smiled, a real smile, the first genuine one I had seen in months. "I think he would have liked this." "I think so too." Now several months have passed. Emma is doing well in school. She has friends who support her. She talks about her father openly, now sharing stories with anyone who will listen. She wants people to know what a good man he was. I manage the estate carefully. I have set up scholarships in Marcus's name for students studying computer science. I have donated to charities he cared about. I make sure Emma has everything she needs, but I also teach her the value of money, the importance of hard work, the significance of helping others. People ask me sometimes how I got through it all, how I dealt with losing my son and then immediately having to fight off his ex-wife, how I found the strength to stand up to Diane's threats. The truth is, I did not have a choice. Emma needed me. Marcus trusted me. I had to be strong because giving up was not an option. But I also learned something important through all of this. I learned that real strength is not about fighting. It is about enduring. It is about getting up every morning even when you do not want to. It is about choosing love over bitterness. It is about protecting the people you care about no matter what it costs you. Diane never came back. I heard through the grapevine that she has struggled financially. Part of me wonders if she thinks about what she could have had if she had just stayed, if she had just been a mother to Emma, if she had just loved her family instead of chasing money and excitement. But that is her burden to carry, not mine. Emma asked me once if I thought Diane was a bad person. I told her I did not know. I told her that people are complicated, that Diane made terrible choices, choices that hurt people, but that did not necessarily make her evil. Just lost, just broken in some way that made her incapable of being what her family needed. But I told Emma, understanding why someone hurt you does not mean you have to let them hurt you again. You can have compassion from a distance. You can wish them well while still protecting yourself. Emma understood. She is wise, beyond her 16 years. I think about Marcus every day. I see him in Emma, in the way she laughs, in the way she solves problems, in the way she cares about people. He lives on through her, through the life he built for her, through the love he gave her. The money sits in accounts carefully invested, growing steadily. It will give Emma the freedom to chase her dreams, to go to the best schools, to start a business if she wants, to help others, to live without fear. But the real gift Marcus gave her was not the money. It was the example of unconditional love, of showing up, of never giving up. That is worth more than $25 million. That is priceless. Sometimes on quiet evenings, I sit on that back porch and look at the Japanese maple tree. It has grown taller, stronger. Its leaves catch the sunlight and glow like fire. I think about Marcus, about the boy he was, about the man he became, about the father he was, and I smile, because he did it. He raised an incredible daughter. He built a life that mattered. He left behind a legacy of love and integrity, and he made sure that even in death he protected the people he loved most. Diane wanted the money, but she got nothing. Emma and I got everything that mattered. We got each other. We got Marcus's love. We got his legacy. And we got the knowledge that we fought for what was right and won. That is the real victory. So when I look back on those terrible days after Marcus died, when Diane showed up demanding money, when we had to fight to keep what was ours, I do not feel angry. I feel grateful. Grateful that we had each other. Grateful that Marcus had prepared us. Grateful that love proved stronger than greed. The money will take care of Emma's future, but it is the love that will carry her through life, and that is something no one can ever take away. Now let me ask you, if someone from your past came back after years of silence demanding something you had earned, how would you handle it? Would you fight back or try to find peace? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this story moved you, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, the greatest inheritance we can leave behind is not money, it is love and integrity. Thank you for listening to my story. May you always find strength in the people who show up for you. And may you never forget that real family is built on presence, not blood. Take care of yourselves and hold your loved ones close. You never know how much time you have.